Hello everyone, you're on the channel in Google Sheets and today we have our fourth lesson on Google Sheets. In this lesson, I'll show you how to create drop-down lists, how to reference specific cells in a sheet or entire ranges. I'll also demonstrate how to perform basic data filtering. And of course, we'll start working with formulas. The very thing Google Sheets is most often used for. Alright. Let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Let's go. Alright, let's copy some specific data from the previous lesson into our new sheet. This is simple to do. Copy. Okay, here's our sheet. Let's rename it. Delete this one. Now we have some specific data. For example, I want this data to appear on another sheet. Let's say we have multiple sheets and on one of them, on sheet 2, I want all the data from here to be displayed, including any edits I make. So how can we make that happen? We can reference these cells. And how do we do that? Let's see. Let's select our cell A1 since we want to reference A1. A1 is column A, row 1. You can also see the cell A1 right here, where the cell reference is displayed. Now let's type the equal sign. Then switch to sheet 1, select cell B1 and move left since I can't directly click on A1 at the moment. Press enter. And now, as you can see, the word name is displayed on the second sheet. To display everything, I'll drag the formula down and copy it to the right. Now everything that's entered or written on the first sheet appears here. Whatever I edit, there will always be reflected here. This is the first way to display and reference specific cells. These are direct cell references. Now let me show you a little life hack on how to reference an entire range at once. Again, we type the equal sign, but this time we open curly brackets. Go to the first sheet and select the columns A, B, and C like this. Then close the curly brackets. Press enter, and on the third sheet you'll see all the data from columns A through C displayed. For now, don't worry about how this works behind the scenes. In the upcoming lessons you'll understand it in detail. For now, just use this function as it is. Now let's create a drop-down list. Here we have our names, and I want to be able to select one of them from a list so that it shows up in each cell. This is done very simply. Right-click, and here we have drop-down. These are part of the data validation rules. What do we see here? We have a range that we want to use. Right now it's set to sheet 1, cell A7. If I want it to work somewhere else, I can just add a colon here and, for example, extend it to cell A17. This way, when I apply the rule, the validation will cover the entire range, all the cells that I specified. Even if I had written B17 instead, it would adjust accordingly. So pay close attention to this, because very often drop-down lists end up placed in the wrong cells if you don't define the range carefully. As you can see, that's exactly what just happened. I set it to A17, but when I clicked done, I noticed that B17 didn't actually work. That's a bug. Let's undo it. Alright, now it works. Next, we have the criteria for our data validation. Let's take a look at what's available here. For now, don't pay too much attention. That's a topic for another video. What matters to us right now is only drop down and drop down from range. Let's keep it on drop down for now, and I'll show you what to do next. Here, we choose the option values that we're interested in. Let's select John, then Hugh, and add one more name, Nicholas Joseph Fury. After that, we can assign each of them a color. Each name gets its own. Here you can also preview how it will look once a particular value is selected. Next we have the checkbox called Allow Multiple Selections. This means that If you enable it, you'll be able to select all the values from the drop-down list: John, Hugh, and Nicholas, all together. You can see right here in the cell that the display changes depending on which values are selected through data validation in our drop-down list. If you disable this option, you'll get an error saying that an invalid value was chosen in the drop-down list. Let's delete this for now and move on. Let's take a look at the additional options. Here we can choose what happens if the data entered is invalid. Either completely block it so that any incorrect entry shows an error, or simply display an error message. Here it is. Also, if you've set it to block editing and only allow values from the drop-down list, you can add your own custom text. So, when someone enters invalid data, they'll see the exact message you wrote here. Let's type something in and then try entering something incorrect. See? Our text is displayed, or in this case, the numbers we typed. And finally, we have the styles for our drop-down list. It can be displayed as a chip, which is what you're seeing right now, or as an arrow. Like this now, it looks different. And the last option is just plain text, which appears when you double-click the cell, like this. I don't recommend using the last option. I suggest either leaving it as it is now or using the chip. Personally, I don't like the chip style, so I usually keep it this way. But the chip is fine too. Now let's apply this to our entire range. Instead of A7, let's set it to A3. Yes, now it works. Let's stretch the column a bit so everything displays correctly. And here as well. Now everything is selectable from the drop-down lists. Click done and let's close this for now. Looking at our drop-downs, let's imagine someone comes and says we need to add 50 more names into this data validation, into these drop-down lists right here. So what do you have to do? You'd need to manually add 50 more values like this. And by the time you're done, you'll be ready to smash your monitor and break your mouse. And then if someone asks you to remove 15 names afterward, that's it, game over. But there is a solution. There's a second option for drop-down lists, creating them from a range. Since we already know how to reference specific ranges or cells, we can also reference a range here. Let's copy this data and paste it into another sheet, which we'll call data. You can name it anything you like. I'll just call it data. We paste our names there. Even if the names are duplicated, it doesn't matter for a drop-down list. Now we choose select data range and select this range. You can see it automatically writes the sheet name and the range address. Let's click OK, and right away all the values from that range appear in the drop-down. Let's click done for now and check how it works. It works exactly the same as before. Nothing has changed. The only difference is that the colors we set earlier are no longer displayed. Basically, we overwrote them when we switched to the drop-down from range. If we want them back, we'd have to assign them again. Usually people don't bother with that. And now, if someone comes and asks you to add 50 more names, you just add them here in the datasheet. Then click done and let's check what we've got. Here are our newly added entries, and no matter how many names or values you add, they'll all appear in the drop-down list. Even if you enter duplicate values, they'll still show up as a single option. Here it is. I think the drop-down lists are clear now. Let's move on. Now let's filter this data. It's very simple, nothing complicated here. First, highlight column A. Right here we have this little filter icon. Click it. And here's a common problem people run into. We can't create a filter on merged cells. What does that mean? It means that earlier we merged these three cells into one. That goes back to our very first lessons. so be careful with that. Let's unmerge them now. Now each cell is separate again. Select column A, click the filter icon, and a filter is created. From here, we can open it and sort the data. But note that only the data within the selected filter range gets sorted. Let's press Ctrl+Z to undo. See? These rows weren't sorted or filtered because they weren't part of the filter range. If we want them included, we need to select the entire range that we want to filter, apply the filter, and then it will work for everything we selected. Now I click Sort and everything is sorted. You can sort from A to Z or from Z to A. You can also filter by a specific color or by specific values. If you don't need any of that, just clear it and press OK. Keep in mind, sorting and filtering are different things. Don't confuse them. You can filter by color only or sort by color if that option is available. I think that's clear enough. There's nothing too complicated here. For a more detailed explanation, I have a separate video where you can dive deeper into the world of filtering in Google Sheets. Make sure to check it out. There are a lot of useful tips there. And now let's get to the best part, formulas. Let's say we have our table and here we'll start working with dates. Let's generate them. Again, we go to data validation. That's where our drop-down lists are. Add a new rule. We've selected a cell. Now we add a rule. But this time, instead of a drop-down list, we choose is valid date. In other words, a specific date. We won't go too deep into this now. This is just to show you how formulas work. Let's select D1, meaning the entire row. Starting from column D, click Done. And now, watch this. We can double-click and open the calendar. That's another little life hack for you. Make use of it. Let's pick a date and copy it, for example, to the right. Like this. Now I want to assign values to each date. For example, some prices or sales. Here I'll type in 33, 22, different numbers for each counterparty we've selected. Let's do it in a way that avoids duplicates and fill in some data across the row. Now I want to make it so that right here we have the total sum of all the data entered in this row. Of course, you could just grab a calculator, add everything up and type in the total. But that would be the wrong way to do it. That's what functions in Google Sheets are for. Functions are written the same way as cell references, by starting with an equal sign. In fact, a reference to a range is also a kind of formula. So, let's add up everything in this row. We type sum. You'll notice that Google Sheets suggests different options with short descriptions. For now, we won't use the advanced ones. We'll stick with the simplest. And here, you can see the hint that shows what arguments we can add into this function. If you want to read more details, you can check it out directly in the pop-up. But for now, that's what I'm here for. This function adds up all the values in the cells you select. Let's highlight them like this. And just like we did with the dates, instead of selecting only one column, let's select the entire row. We delete the J, and now the whole row is highlighted. Then we close the formula and press Enter. That's it. All our row values are summed up. Now let's drag the formula down. You can see it copies itself into the rows below, becoming D4, D5, D6, and so on. Pretty straightforward. And you can do the same with dates. If I want to see the total for each date down here, I can write the formula as well. Google Sheets even suggests it automatically. You can click on the suggestion or write it out yourself, open the brackets, and select the range. Again, the sheet shows a hint. Press Enter, and now we see the totals for each specific day. Let's copy the formula to the side. Let's even add another row here and copy the formula again. Now we can see the grand total, the totals by each counterparty, and the totals by day. From here, you can start building whatever reports you need. Alright, that's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching. See you next time.